I think with this one, we need to take it a level beyond. The Magi greatness is amazing, but this chapter, Magi devastation. Magi devastation. Oh my fucking god. If you could comprehend how incredibly anxious I was for this chapter, you would be like, bro. Oh my gosh. Let's jump into it. That Magi greatness. So this is the moment we all been waiting for since the very beginning of this flashback. We've been waiting to see what would be the downfall of Alma-Tehran, who would be Kyoku, how would it all start, and just ultimately where it would go. Now, one thing I gotta say for starters, after the events of this chapter, Solomon, you better fucking snap out of it. He needs to snap out of it at this point, and I'm pretty sure he will, because if you remember the flashback we've seen, I think we've seen it a couple different times, but in the flashbacks that we've seen prior to this one, where we got like little glimpses of Alma-Tehran, Solomon had said, so you couldn't let it happen after all, which means he's probably going to come back to his senses and realize, holy shit, you know, I need to stop this one last time. Either that or this decrepit, ready to die Solomon is going to have to do whatever he can to stop this and create this world alongside Ugo. This chapter, oh my gosh, between the feels of this chapter, the craziness of this chapter, and finally getting what we've been waiting for ages now to see what ultimately will be the downfall, it's overwhelming, to be honest with you. It's overwhelming. Being realistic though, putting my fanboy aside and putting just my overall excitement aside, if I had to say one thing about this chapter that I think definitely should have been improved on, was the pacing. Ultimately, I think that this fight between Queen Sheba and Arba should have been a lot longer than this one chapter. Like, as much as I cut it and slice it and dice it, which there is some reasoning why it went this quick, but ultimately it just should have been a longer fight. That's really the only thing I can say, because other than that, the diabolical nature of Arba, everything that went down, it was like, oh my fucking god. So we begin with Solomon is basically about to pass away. This thing has taken his body to the point where I'm guessing one of the major things that it did is it made him really, really old, and it fucked his mind up to the point where, like, you know, when you get so old, sometimes you start losing your memory and you just get all warped and shit. That's what it did to him, and he's at the point right now where he's about to pass away in the beginning of the chapter, and Sheba's trying to do one last hoorah for him before he passes away. And pretty much Arba's like, it's not happening, bro. It's not happening, because at this point you can already see that she is like, get the fuck out of here. He is not our god. He can go fuck himself. And it just makes me really wonder what was up with Sheba, because in this chapter we finally see Sheba with that look in her eyes where her like pupils are just completely just fucked, and it's like, so what was it with her at this particular point? I think one of the big things is there was a mixture with her, and I think this also adds to the reason why she did lose very quick. You can see at this point that Arba pretty much is just not having it. Like, she has already denounced that in her mind he is not God and he can go fuck himself. I really wish this flashback would have dived more into Arba. That's one of the regrets I have as well coming into this chapter. I think at this particular point later on we're going to get more into her and why she ultimately did this, because it seems like Arba, her nature by nature, has always been this way, because she even said at this point, yeah, Solomon, you tricked Sheba. She basically tells Sheba, you know, he tricked you. Solomon is basically like a false prophet. So in her mind, I'm guessing that one of the big things is that either after he did that, she completely went batshit, or even before that, she was already kind of, you know, fucked up. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it was a glimpse of how fucked up she was when she went straight into that room and just stabbed David straight in the face. So you can already see that she was not all there. But I would have liked to get a little bit more of maybe a lot of this flashback from Arba's perspective, things of what she was thinking was going on, because it wasn't until that moment where they were in the room where we finally got to see her full on go crazy, and she was like, this is the one thing I can't accept. So right now, in my opinion, Arba is just like a crazy religious nut, but to the next level, because she's actually witnessed God in pain, and this made her go fucking batshit crazy that first David would do this, and then Solomon would remove God and try to take his place. And the thing that I'm wondering as well, because if Solomon at this point is controlling destiny, he became God and he's the one controlling everything that goes down, then wouldn't he be able to stop this? The only thing that I'm thinking why he can't stop this is because Arba was in that room when that happened. So his control of destiny doesn't affect only like the people that were in there. So pretty much the Magi are the only ones that are able to change destiny, and that's why Arba is able to do this and make everyone, including Wahid, Phelan, and Ethnon, all fall into the depravity as well. If it wasn't for Arba, none of this would have happened. And I'm not even just meaning like her being evil. Her power, her immunity to Solomon's control over destiny is what's fucking everything up. And for the most part, a good chunk of the stuff that happened in this chapter were the events from 215, where Arba's playing innocent, pretending to cry there. Sheba, you've changed so much. Look at her. Queen Sheba's different now. This was all 215 coming into play, so we finally got to see this content. And I believe in May, Otaka was already talking about doing these things. And it's really a shame, to be honest with you, because you could definitely see in this chapter again that she sped things up way. She probably was going to do this arc for another 10, 20 chapters. And while, again, it was, in a way, it felt like it was very slow paced, but it needed that because at the end of the day, like, again, this chapter just went, the fight should have been like a good 10 chapter fight, or a 5 chapter fight at least, and to get it all in one chapter is a bittersweet feeling. I understand, to be honest with you, I really understand why it went down like that, because at the end of the day, if you look at it, Sheba is mentally distraught after everything that's happened. She's about to lose her husband, the love of her life, the man that pretty much rescued her from fucking despair and everything that she was into when she was little. So she's about to do that. She's pregnant. Who knows how far along at this point. It's probably been months and months that she's been pregnant. So she's already weakened by that. And then ultimately when Arba whips out the Black Root, something they've never really faced like that before, and all those Black Root monsters, and then absorbs it into her body to fight her, Sheba never stood a chance. So I kind of I think with this one, we need to take it a level beyond. The Magi greatness is amazing, but this chapter, Magi devastation. Magi devastation. Oh my fucking god. If you could comprehend how incredibly anxious I was for this chapter, you would be like, bro. Oh my gosh. Let's jump into it. That Magi greatness. So this is the moment we all been waiting for since the very beginning of this flashback. We've been waiting to see what would be the downfall of Al-Mataran, who would be Kyokuin, how would it all start, and just ultimately where it would go. Now, one thing I gotta say for starters, after the events of this chapter, Solomon, you better fucking snap out of it. He needs to snap out of it at this point, and I'm pretty sure he will, because if you remember the flashback we've seen, I think we've seen it a couple different times, but in the flashbacks that we've seen prior to this one, where we got like little glimpses of Al-Mataran, Solomon had said, so you couldn't let it happen after all, which means he's probably